Warning, this podcast will contain spoilers about the series Hunted Australia. It'll contain some strong language and at some point may even contain a dog. Hide and Seek is a childhood classic game played by children all around the globe. But how about when they become grown-ups?
Could they leave behind the lives they built and stay hidden in order to win a cash prize, evading capture from their country's elite team of hunters?
My name's Craig.
And I'm Nat. In 2022, we discovered the UK version of Hunted and became obsessed.
We've since found out about Hunted all around the globe, and for this series of the podcast, we're going down under to talk all things Hunted Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. I've just received information that we have 18 fugitives in 2 vehicles headed towards the Melbourne area.
Copy, check.
Photo Delta will review the footage and stand by.
You got to trust your instincts. I know you thought you were trusting them today. Maybe you were. We don't know if they came. That's just it. We don't.
The thing that scares me the most about going on the run is paranoia. Just that whole unknown element of, will we be hunted today?
Surveillance in Australia, I just feel like everyone's being watched.
If I can't outsmart the hunters, then how am I supposed to do my own job? It's almost conflicting to normally be the good guy.
You're the bad cop now.
Yeah,
so.
but you still have to win.
Why not my house? I mean, that's an option.
That's a rookie error. Like, only because it's the first night. They'll be thinking, well, who are they going to reach out to first?
I quite honestly don't think it's going to be an issue tonight.
That's the access point right there for vehicles.
So if we're going to deploy a sentry camera on that, we want to have it in a position that can cover the driveway and on foot straight at the front door.
Hi Delta team, what I need is you to put a camera up so we can see all access points, keep them under surveillance, do not get compromised.
Is there anyone in the car?
Oh, look, they might be leading down.
We're going to lose Jackie in a minute.
Is that Jackie? That's Jackie. Jackie!
Oh, hunters. That's her. That's her. Oh,
no! So it's time to get your capture pants on and run away from the hunters.
It's not the hunters I'd worry about, it's the 400,000 crocodiles and 140 species of land snake.
It's okay. No snakes or crocodiles are going to get you here. We're still in the UK.
Jordan might though.
Good point.
Welcome to the Hunted Podcast.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.
Hello and welcome back to the Hunted Podcast. How are you all doing? Hope that you're all well. You well?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah,
are you?
I'm all right. Do you know what? I'm feeling a lot better than I was last week on the podcast.
Good.
And I mean, that's not to say that I won't forget everything that we talk about, but that does mean that I want to start with a little apology this week.
Right, go on then.
Okay, so last week on the podcast, we were talking about the accidental capture of Sonny Joe and Grace.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, but if you're listening to this and you don't know what about that, then, you know, what are you doing with your life? Yeah. We talked about how Team Alpha, and my mate Jace.
Your mate Jace?
Well, our mate Jace, he's started following us and stuff on Instagram and what have you. So hello to you.
Hi.
I might have mentioned, or I might have said something along the lines of he saw the cameras.
Yeah.
What I meant to say was he saw the bags, saw the packs, the backpacks.
Yeah.
So I just want to apologise, just in case that anyone thinks that I was suggesting for a second that the Hunter team got the capture of Sonny Joe and Grace purely by fact of them seeing the cameras.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case at all. We know it wasn't the case, and it very, 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 very rarely is in any form of Hunted, because the camera team are covert. They have training. They are very, very good at hiding the cameras and not showing themselves. Sometimes it's seen on CCTV because obviously they are following them with a camera, but it's not the camera team which identify them, it's the Fugitives. So I just wanted to start off by apologising for that. I didn't mean to cause any offence, and you know what, the ground hunters need to take a lot of credit for the fact that they just saw something and went with a gut feeling.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
They did very well.
So what we're here to talk about today then?
Today we are here to talk about episode 7 of Hunted Australia.
Yes, and it's a good one, isn't it?
It is a good one. It's a bit of a long one again. But it's a good one. It's action-packed.
Yeah, we're ramping up the action,
we are.
And we are getting closer. We're starting to see a lot of movement. And do you know what? It feels really, really, really weird because we were talking in sort of like episode 2 of this podcast when we were reviewing episodes 2 and 3 about it feeling like it's taking a long time to get anywhere. Like it took a long time to move from hour 1 to like the end of day 2.
Yeah, that took a long time.
But now it feels like we've had the opposite. Now it feels like we're really, really getting towards the end. So it's really, really good. A couple of people from Australia that have started listening, obviously because we're talking Australian Hunted, so it's bound to happen, have messages and said, I don't get this whole thing of the show length. We feel it's actually quite short. Yeah.
Our Australian shows just really long, an hour, half an hour, hour-long TV shows aren't actually that long.
Yeah, maybe because...
Do we have shorter attention spans than Australians?
Maybe, and I also think that a lot of our thing about it feeling long is the way that it's been put on the All 4 app.
Yeah, it's the ad breaks are in the wrong... They're just like randomly thrown into different places and it doesn't fit.
Somebody has done a very, very bad job in putting mid-roll in for the ads. Technical terms. It's the marker within the time frame. Say if you've got an hour's programme uninterrupted and you're putting ads in, typically in a British show it would be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Or, 15 minutes, half an hour.
45.
They'd have specific time markers to the second. Someone's just done a really bad job of putting them on the All 4
some of
app.
them are like halfway through a sentence. And
it's
like,
very weird.
Yeah, have some adverts.
I mean, I hope that doesn't happen with this podcast because we have not got a sponsor. And if genuinely, if you've listened to this podcast and you've heard ads in this podcast, please get in touch and tell us because somebody owes us a lot of money.
Yeah, I want my money.
Yeah, if you want to get in touch.
Also, and what adverts?
Yeah.
I want to know what they're advertising. I want to know if it's something good or if it's just something ridiculous.
If there's a generic ad which is playing midway through this podcast, we have not signed up to do that.
Nope.
B, we are not getting a penny for it.
Nope.
And C, if that is happening, somebody please tell us so we can chase after them and get the money. Yeah, and if you want to.
Twitter @HuntedPod, Instagram @HuntedPod, Facebook is just HuntedPod, or email huntedpod@outlook.com.
And D, if you do want to, if you have got a business and you want to flog something, I'm more than happy to take your money.
If it's something really, really, really interesting and you need us to test it out as well, like a biscuit or some sweets or some crisps.
Basically, what you're saying, if you are a biscuit company, a sweet company, if you are McVitie's or Haribo or Swizzles, we want to hear from
Walkers.
you. Or Walkers, we want to hear from you.
We want to hear from you.
That's what you're saying, right?
I'll take other options too.
Yeah.
Shoes and stuff.
What do I get out of that?
Shoes.
I'm all right with mine, thanks.
All right then. Anyway.
Should we get back to
Should we talk Hunted?
Yeah, let's talk Hunted. Like we said, big episode this week. Lots to talk about. If you haven't seen it, I mean, why am I even saying this? Because we say it in the intro of the show. But if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's on the All 4 app. And then come back and listen because there are spoilers, starting with this. There are another 2 captures in this episode, but...
we get split.
We get splits. Finally get some splits. Really, really looking forward to it. There's one thing I want to talk before we delve into the couples and the pairings and all of that. we need to do a catch-up as to where we are.
Right.
So where did we leave it last time? Just remind our listeners where we left it last time. Because I've also this thought's just occurred to me as well, that somebody might be listening to this having not watched it and relying on us to tell them the story and whether to decide or not whether to go and watch it.
Right. So we left off last week with Chris and Puneet at or near to stepfather Jeff's friend's house. There was 2 teams of hunters go into the house, and then we had a zoom.
A zoom is credits roll, right?
Yeah.
That's what you mean by that.
Yeah. A zoom. So this week we start off again with teams D and B.
Come on.
Oh.
We literally went through this in the sound check.
Bravo and Delta.
Yes, come on.
Boom, boom. Boom.
I've moved the tables around. You couldn't reach,
Can't
could you?
reach.
Little facts behind the curtain. You may have noticed in the last 4 or 5 weeks or so that you can now watch this on Spotify, so you can see us as well as hear us. And we're also on YouTube as well. But we had constant problems with the dog.
Yeah.
So the way the room was set up was, let me get my degrees right. I want to say 45 degrees or 90. No, 90 degrees. It was 90 degrees the other way.
Yeah.
So we had to close the door to get you in shot.
Yeah.
And shut Harry out. It's been really, really warm these last few days and Harry's not settling, and we decided it wasn't very practical, so we've moved it around by 90 degrees. Harry can now lie on the floor. There's lots of space. He's actually lying at your feet right now under the table.
He's under the table.
And we've got the window open to let some air in, which is why you get a little bit of light on my face because I've not figured that out. But I'm not stopping it now. What was I saying?
I don't know. We just high-fived across the table and couldn't reach. You were talking about changing the table around.
Because we've moved around slightly, we can't.
I can't reach.
I've
only got little arms.
Which doesn't make sense because the table width is exactly the same as what it was when it was 90 degrees the other way.
I don't know.
Maybe you just didn't put as much effort in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. So yeah, we left off with those there last time. Where else did we leave everybody else?
Oh.
Who's still left in the game? Let's go with that.
Still left in. We've got Jake and Rob, Staffy and Matt, Lavinia and Nick, Punny and Chris.
Yes, so 4 teams left in the game. There will still be 4 teams at the end of this show, but those teams will be a little bit lighter. There won't be 4 teams.
No, there won't be 4.
There'll be 3 teams.
2.5.
2.5 teams left at the end of this podcast. God, things did happen in this episode. Another thing, we often talk about things that we like in the show and things which we're appreciative of in the AU version compared to the UK version. I like the recaps at the start because you get the voiceover guy doing something a little bit different. And over the last couple of episodes, I've started to scribble down things that he says. And this week, it was 8 remain, reputations are on the line, and there's everything to play for. 8 days remaining, extraction will be revealed 24 hours prior. That wasn't in the voiceover, that was a note that I wrote at the side of it. But the voiceover also said, and this is key for this episode, the words exhausted, paranoid, and afraid. Big theme in this episode. Can we start with Nick and Lavinia?
If that's where I was going to finish, but if that's where you want to start.
Oh, now we've got a dilemma, isn't it? You want to finish on Nick and Lavinia. I want to start on Nick and Lavinia. There's only one way to settle this, right?
Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, go.
Ooh.
Rock, paper, scissors,
shoot.
Boof!
Damn it, right. So Nick and Lavinia, we're parking that to the end. I never lose at that game. Never.
I won.
Never. If you want to take away anything from this podcast today, it's that you won at rock, paper, scissors.
Yep.
Right, come on then. Where are we starting?
I think we should start with Jake and Rob.
Okay.
Because we only get a little bit of them.
Right.
So I think they're an easy
one.
I've got that they are in Werribee, and that Maggie is hiding them in some stables.
A horse keeping range.
Okay. With some horses. They are with horses. Again, they're doing work in order to get their board and their food and everything. They've been very clever with that.
Or have they? Well, yeah, they've been very clever with that.
Yeah, they've been very clever with earning money so they don't have to use their card.
Yes, because as we've seen in other Fugitives, the HQ team have the power to block the cards. So in doing little jobs in return for board and in return for a bit of food, not only does it keep them well nourished, it also puts them with a little bit of cash in their pocket, and it means that they are able to not have to utilise the one thing which the HQ team are banking on them using, which is the bank card, which will give them a ping.
Yeah. But they have a bit of stupidity. Now, it is stupidity on one of their behalf because one of them is a police officer.
Right, okay. But that's like me saying you're a lawyer and you don't know a specific law about, I don't know, I'm going to pick an area of law that you don't know. So, property? No, that's harsh. That's like you being expected to know the intricate ins and outs of, let's say, wills and probate.
Oh, yeah, I'd take that. I know a tiny bit.
You know enough on the surface.
Yeah.
But you're expected to know about it. So I think stupidity is a little bit harsh, personally.
Okay,
I think lack of research and maybe almost an air of arrogance towards it.
Yeah.
Arrogance is maybe a little bit strong as well.
But
let's go over to an air of overconfidence.
Okay. So, yeah, there's that. Because we know that they have a burner phone.
Yes.
We know that they have that. And they have swapped the SIM card in it, thinking that by swapping the SIM card, the hunters can no longer trace it.
Yeah, so I want to try and drill this down into language which I understand, and I'm going to use limited knowledge of what I understand to explain this. Mm-hmm. And please, if you are a hunter, you work in the police, you are a detective, or you work in that sort of tech analyst area, please feel free to get in touch and come on the podcast to talk more about this, because that's exactly why we started the podcast. We wanted to talk more about those things, okay? So I'm just using my limited knowledge on it to talk about it. And that is that a SIM card will create a data field, like a data field. It has a number attached to it, and the SIM card also has a number like a barcode.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way to explain it. The SIM card has a unique code which is unique to that number, which therefore when a phone call is made, pings off the nearest cell tower, which also has a code to locate the area. So it puts you in a specific range, and that's how they are able to track wherever it's gone. So, for example, if I make a phone call here on my phone, maybe to my dad and say, look, hey, I'm coming over, I'm going to be there in half an hour, whatever, and then move on to my dad's and then make a phone call there, it will... To you saying, I'm on my way back. Do you want anything picking up from the chippy? You'll say yes, blah, 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 blah. It will ping me in the house, or well, not in the house, or in the vicinity of my house, and then in the vicinity of my dad's house, and it will track that movement to and from.
And then they can also use that to track in different areas mobile numbers that have been in those areas. That
have been close to try and figure out associates and things like that, and movements. And obviously the SIM card will also give you the phone call data in terms of, mine will show that I've rung my dad, it will show that I've rung you, it will show that I've messaged the work chat, that sort of thing. By removing that SIM card and putting a new SIM card in, it will create a new one of them. So a whole new activity, which on the surface will look like a different number, a different pattern completely. It's a different trace. It's a different... I'm trying to think the best way of explaining it. it's a different path to follow.
Yeah.
A different route to take, if you like. But the SIM card is in a device, and it is the device which helps send the data to the cell site.
Yeah.
The cell. So it's not necessarily my SIM card which is giving the cell site analysis. It's also the phone handset itself, because each phone handset also has a unique barcode, a unique identity, a unique DNA. That's what I should have said. DNA. It has its own DNA.
Yeah.
So when the hunters analyse and go, right, well, I've got Craig's SIM card data, they will have a phone number to know what SIM card I'm using, but they will also have a number for a handset.
Yeah.
So if that handset is then used by putting your SIM card in it, or Harry's SIM card in it, or whoever's, the handset is still traceable. So it is then part of the detection team's knowledge to go, well, that person must be using that handset.
Yeah.
So it's not only the SIM card which has DNA, it's the handset which has DNA. But the convoluted point I'm trying to make is Jake and Rob didn't realise that.
Yeah.
They didn't understand that.
Nope.
And they thought simply by taking out one SIM card and putting another in, it's a fresh piece of paper. It's fresh DNA.
Yeah.
It's not. You've still got traceables. So, for example, now put your hand out. Okay. My DNA, your DNA. Our DNA has now touched.
Yeah.
My SIM card, the phone.
Yeah.
Jake and Rob's SIM card, the phone that they've used. They've now touched. So now if you go on and put something other SIM card, so you leave that hand flat, yeah?
Yeah.
So this is actually a good way of demonstrating it. First SIM card that they picked the number upon.
Yeah.
New SIM card,
Yeah.
handset.
Yeah.
DNA has touched. That one's now out of the game. DNA is now connected to that SIM card. So it's triangulated the three things. The hunters are so much better at explaining it than what I am. I just hope that my convoluted way of explaining it explains it. What I'm trying to say is it all connects and that they've not wiped the slate clean.
No.
Almost like when you wipe a whiteboard, if you look really closely or you get a piece of paper like that, that bit of paper there beneath is blank, but I can see outlines of what's been written. It leaves a mark. It leaves a footprint. And I think what we couldn't quite comprehend and what you were trying to say is that how did Jake not understand that as a police officer? And I agreed at the time when we were talking about it, but we watched it yesterday, having thought about it, it's like that analogy I used with you.
Yeah.
People might perceive that you work in law, so you understand every law, but it would depend on what type of police officer he is.
Yeah.
If he's a detective, then 100% I'm with you and saying, well, why the did you not know that?
Yeah.
But if he's a normal beat officer and their job is to be more patrol and assist and to regulate and to not do the joining of the dots, then I get it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. But okay, yeah. I get that. But obviously they've been silly.
Yeah, I think it's just a case of overconfidence maybe, and maybe not quite thinking it through because they've done all this other stuff about this is good, that's good, but haven't quite got to the point of we need to cover our tracks. They've left footprints in the sand.
Yeah. And we also learnt something new in this one. So not only were HQ looking at the phone, but they were also looking at new activations related to each person's name.
Yes.
So they were looking at new SIM cards that were being activated relating to each person's name rather than just the handset.
Which I did find a little bit weird because I could go to Tesco or Asda or any other supermarket now, buy a SIM card off a shelf and not have to register my name to it.
So it might be different in
Australia.
They might have to associate a name to it. But they were looking at ones activated relating to each person's name, and obviously they had a new one relating to one of them.
Yeah. And I think we're trying to say, and the whole thing of that is, they've been so cautious so far, but they've slipped up a little bit, and now they've, through their own misunderstanding of how something works, have left the door open for the hunters to come in and to follow their movements.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because they've not fallen into that category of exhausted, paranoid, and afraid, or have they? Because has exhaustion led them to make that mistake?
Yeah, possibly.
Has paranoia of how they're going to find them and thinking of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, other ways to try and get away from the hunters, made them miss H?
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Right. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's.
Okay. Should we go to Staffy and Matt?
Yes. Where did we leave them?
Last time we left them, there was a little bit of struggle on Matt's behalf. He was struggling with the sleeping rough, with having no contact with their social network. So we left them in sort of probably a more vulnerable position than we've seen them. And we don't see a lot from them this week. They are seeking a safe place to sleep, and they end up finding work in exchange for accommodation. And
again, going back to that title of the show, exhausted, paranoid, afraid. They are exhausted because they've been rattled. They have properly been rattled by the hunters being close to them in the church situation. They had this whole plan about staying there and then moving on and keeping that vehicle for safety and moving on using that. But all of a sudden, because of one moment, they've had to then switch. And that has made them physically exhausted because they, instead of sitting back and driving and being able to relax that way, they've had to be on foot. They've had to move. Mentally exhausted because it's a tiring thing to do. Paranoid because, oh my God, they've got that. How can they do that?
Yeah.
And afraid of what's next because they've had their whole world blown apart, and they rely on the kindness of strangers, which we're never a big fan of on the podcast, are we? As desperation kicks in, and they've resorted back, in my opinion, to the default setting, which is to go back to one of their original plans. They've not quite learnt the lesson in terms of letting that one moment of scare tactic, that one moment of being closed, completely derail them. They've got this thing about this chill out festival, this drag event at the weekend, and they're now fully focused on that. And they need to collaborate. They need to work harder, and they need to disguise themselves so the beards come off.
Beards come off so that they can go full drag.
Now this is a big part of it for me. If I was on Hunted, one thing I would do before the show started, because you know you're going to go on. I don't know whether you'd be allowed to or not, because I guess it depends on production rules. I'm growing my hair and I'm growing a beard.
All right.
I know you hate it. I know you're not a fan, and I know that you're probably not going to touch me for a while. But I could do with a piece. Jokes. Very nice cup of tea. You missed the biscuit.
Can't have a biscuit whilst you're doing a podcast.
Oh, I can.
You can have the biscuit afterwards.
I've done 6 series of another podcast where I eat biscuits during said podcast, and it's live. I can very much have a biscuit during a podcast.
Can we carry on, please?
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Don't think they want to hear us argue about biscuits.
Welcome to the domestic podcast. And basically, I would grow it because it's a natural disguise technique, because the hunters are used to seeing them pop up on CCTV or whatever, or on posters with beards, with hair. Hair. Shaving the beard off completely gives you a bit of a different look. They're going to be in drag, so they're going to be basically looking for blokes in drag with beards. Well, they're not got beards, have they? So,
I think we could end up seeing quite a professional drag appearance.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all we see of them.
and the HQ team are looking into what they're going to do next. So they know about the drag festival, but there's a bit of uncertainty on their part.
There is, yes. They don't know whether it's a trick or whether they're actually going to turn up. They are unsure.
And we'll find out next week. We will. Right, where are we going next? So we've only got...
We're going to Puneet and Chris.
Oh, of course we are, because we're doing Nick and Lavinia last, aren't we?
We are, because I won.
Yeah. Go on then.
So, Puneet and Chris. Obviously, last week we left them at Graham's house with teams Delta and Bravo rolling in. So, the teams search Graham's house, but Puneet and Chris aren't there. They are with Graham's neighbour, Jill.
Yes, they are 2 kilometres up the road, hiding out with Jill, and get the message that the teams are there and feel like they've been compromised, so decide that they're going to have to drive on. But there's a little bit of pressure because in order to get back where they need to be, they need to drive back through the honey.
They do. They need to go back past Graham's house. And as they go back past Graham's house, they see a hunter car. So yeah, they are arranging for a safe place in the city. They're going back to what they know. They're going back to their sort of safety net. But before we see them get there, we see HQ looking through their social media activity, and they find an associate.
Yes, who is also called Puneet. So for this part of the podcast, we're going to call him Other Puneet.
Other Puneet.
So with the Intel and Cyber team have discovered that Fugitive Puneet has a radio show on a AM radio station, an internet radio station, with Other Puneet.
Other Puneet.
So they quickly deduce that that's a possibility where they may turn next. So they, of course, pop his phone, that's Other Puneet's phone, on intercept and monitoring so they can see if there is any suspicious activity and whether or not Fugitive Puneet will reach out.
Now, we know that he does, and that they arrange for Other Puneet to give them a lift to their next location. Now, this is where the mistakes keep happening, because they tell Other Puneet not to click on things on his map.
Yes.
But what they are unaware of, and what I was unaware of, that even if you open up Google Maps, it gives away where you are.
Yes. So, again, another reason why I want to get an expert in the field on, because I'd love for all of this stuff to be properly explained. So again, I'm going to try not to do it in a convoluted way, but everything that you do leaves a trace. Every website that you go on will leave a trace every step you make. So it won't leave a trace at the end point. So say, for example, you are Googling McVitie's biscuits.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to do it this way. Say you are Googling Haunted Podcast on Spotify.
Yeah.
The ping of data doesn't start and end at the end point, which is ultimately you on Spotify having found the Haunted Podcast, pressing play, which is what you're aiming to do, right? It starts the millisecond you open Google, because your phone, your data goes, oh, they're on Google. Because in order for you to get to point B, which is your end game, there has to be a point A.
Yeah.
There has to be a search.
Okay.
This is how in marketing SEO works. Search engine optimization. Because you type in your phrase, which is Haunted Podcast on Spotify, and Google goes to the cloud, searches everything in the cloud in the internet, and drops you back the results, and gives you the results, and gives you the option to then choose where you go next.
Like that middle bit in Wreck-It Ralph.
Never watched Wreck-It Ralph.
You have watched Wreck-It Ralph. Right, okay.
I have not watched Wreck-It Ralph. She thinks I've watched Wreck-It Ralph, but I was actually asleep.
That doesn't surprise me.
Anyway, it leaves it leads one little droplet. Think of a dripping tap in a bowl of water. Exactly. Drip, 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 drip.
Yeah.
So for every thing you open, even if you type nothing at all, it leaves a drip.
Okay.
And therefore, you are able to trace said drip into a pool of what you want.
Okay.
That's it. I'm not going down any more analogies.
Okay, so they use other Puneet's phone. Okay? So they send Team Bravo to their location.
By the way, who on receiving the news that they're going to be dispatched look like excited schoolboys. Bless them. Like they've been let out on a little day trip. You know when you were at school and you used to get asked to go and take a message to the head of year or whatever, and you used to get like that little bit of a mini trip. Like that.
You got to escape.
Yeah.
So.
Something to do.
So they've been using other Puneet's phone to look at the map of where they are. They've not clicked on anything, but they've opened it so they know they've got a location. They've also used his phone to call other people, but only using WhatsApp calls, thinking that that's going to hide it.
Absolutely irrelevant. A call is a call. WhatsApp is a call service, and data can be traced.
So the cyber team are trying to access other Puneet's phone and trying to log into his Google account, but can't get in, and it then sends a notification to other Puneet.
Yes.
Yep. You with me? So then, this is where the paranoid comes in. Because
I'm glad you've got on board with the theme.
Because he gets the notification and then tells Fugitive Puneet and Chris.
Too many Puneets in this.
Can people have different names, please? He tells them, someone's trying to access my phone, so they're on the move. However, he keeps his phone turned on. He keeps his location turned on. So what does HQ do? They follow him. So Team Bravo go to the original location. They find an empty house.
By the way, just a little caveat on that.
Yeah.
If you were thinking, well, he'd not made a phone call, he'd not sent a text message, so how on earth could they know where his phone was? Because your SIM card, you know that little thing in the top corner, your signal, that attaches to a tower. Yeah. So as you move up and down, this is the easiest way to do it, right? Next time you walk around town centre, have your phone in your hand. Don't look at it all the time because you might walk into someone. But have your phone in your hand, and you'll notice that as more round the towns you go, more around the areas, as you move around, your signal will dip from 5 bars to 4 to 3 to 5 because it's pinging off other towers and it's trying to find the strongest signal. But in order for it to do that, it creates a bit of DNA.
Mm-hmm. So, they've been to the house, they've found it empty. Chris, Fugitive Puneet, and other Puneet are now at their next location. Other Puneet turns his location off once they're at that location. So, that then gives HQ information of where they are. They can find out what associates are linked to that address and send a team there.
But it also gives them, it's created, because HQ are always behind, it's given them two. So it's given them the first location where he was searching on the map, even though he didn't search for anything.
Where they've found is already empty.
Yeah. And before they go in, they've also got this second one of, they've got this thing of, well, they're at this someone's at this location, but are they there?
Yeah.
And Reese in HQ says, we can't work on possibilities. We have to work on, what is it? I can't read my own writing. It's either definites or, yeah, I think it's definites.
Okay.
Can't work on possibilities. We have to work on definites, which is why when the Team Bravo gets to the original location, they're not there. They've gone.
Yeah.
And then that's annoyed Reese. They've pissed me off so much now. I want them in the bag. And that's when we get the quote from, I think, Fugitive Puneet, this location is safe.
No. So, Fugitive Puneet and Chris plan to change their appearance. They arrange another ride with someone new to get them somewhere else. However, Team Bravo has other ideas.
They do.
They turn up at the flats.
Oh, yeah, we probably should have explained that it's flats.
Yes, it's a block of flats.
One way in, one way out.
One way in, one way out.
Well, technically, 2 ways out. We'll come to that in a minute.
So they are to the block, straight up the stairs to the flat. And you don't even see them knock on the door.
Straight through the front
They're
door.
just straight in, and it's just it's another.
Go on, say it.
Disappointing one. It's hands-on the sofa. Capture.
Yeah, but to be fair, as the boys say when they speak to David Craig,
the
legendary David Craig, it was sit here or jump off the balcony.
You're probably better just to sit there then.
For $100,000, I might have given it a go.
All right.
No, I would not. And to be honest, they wouldn't have been allowed.
No, they'd have been stopped.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we got to capture another team down.
And we also got the line from Team Bravo, aka the Excited Schoolboys. Chuck them in the back, straight to HQ.
Did you also see their little high five?
Cute.
They were like,
yay! Yay! Successful no delivered. Yay!
They got so excited, bless them. It was really cute.
And then, of course, we got the update on the show to where we were at that point. Like we said before, we don't go in order on this particular one. We do on the other podcast when we do the UK one, but for AU we don't. We talk about teams. That's because we're not watching it in real time. There's 4 days left at this point. And we get yet another David Craig motivational speech, which is fantastic result. But now is not the time to draw breath. Back in the game we go. Right, and back in the game we go. It's where I wanted to start. It's where you wanted to finish. Ultimately, it's where we're going to finish. It's Nick and Lavinia.
It is Nick and Lavinia. So, we start off with them in Yee. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yee.
Yeah.
Whatever we're going with. And they're having some issues. Lavinia doesn't like camping. They've been camping for a while. She's cold. She's tired. They're bored of camping.
Also, good to point out that when we first pick up 30-year-old Nick and 27-year-old Lavinia this episode, there's 7 days remaining on the run when we pick them up, and 14 until their wedding.
Yeah, so that there's probably a little bit of stress there for them as well, potentially.
Don't want to make assumptions, but given what
they've got someone planning it for them.
Yeah.
So HQ are going through, I think it's Nick's socials, and they find Paddy, the associate who owns a cattle farm, via
an iMessage, and the cattle farm is in
Mansfield.
Up the Mansfield, come on.
And we know what happens in Mansfield. Captures
happen in Mansfield. It is a known hunted fact. Fun fact: first ever UK capture happened in Mansfield, our hometown.
So Nick and Lavinia's strategy is to not use their friends and family because their network in Victoria is small. It's not where they're from, so they don't know a lot of people there, but they know Paddy. So a stranger gives them a lift to
Mansfield.
Yep. And they also use that stranger's phone to arrange a meet-up with Paddy.
Patty, is it Paddy or Patty? I got Patty.
Oh, I got Paddy.
It's Patty, I think.
Patty sounds like a woman's name.
I know, but you can't judge. It's Australia.
Patty or Paddy, we're going to use both.
P-Man.
P-Man. Right, they arranged to meet up with P-Man.
Can we really call him P-Man?
Yeah, we're doing it now. We can't decide what his name is, so we're going with P-Man. So they meet up with P-Man. They go to his house. They have a nice little snacky, not a snacky board. That's not a snacky board.
Cheese board? No, because they have that in the shop.
No, it was like some strawberries, some meat, some other shiz, and some champagne. It's not what I'd call a snacky board, but each to their own.
Oh, okay, carry on.
Differences. Teams Charlie and Echo go to P-Man's house. They question
P-Man's farm?
P-Man's farm, sorry. They question the P-Man and his wife. Whilst Nick Lavinia...
Wife's name?
Oh, I didn't get that.
Storm.
Flipping hell. Whilst Nick and Lavinia are in a nearby winery, just enjoying a cheese board and some wine. As you do. P-Man phones the winery and lets them know that the hunters are there. Panic sets in. They get in the car that the P-Man has lent them, and off they go with nothing.
Literally, they have no bags. All they've got at this point now is their clothes on their back. Exhausted, paranoid, afraid. Yeah. Love it!
Whilst at P-Man's farm, the hunters spot some cameras. They send pictures of them to HQ for them to get the...
Put the requests in to get the CCTV and the footage.
That's what I wanted. They get it, but they don't get the visual first. They just get a description from the CCTV of the vehicle. And said vehicle then goes on to ANPR.
Yes. And again, I feel like I'm explaining this. ANPR is... Come on. You've watched enough Police Interceptors now to nail this first time. Do not even think about it. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say ANPR is, and you're gonna give me an answer like bang. Ready? ANPR, bang.
Automated number plate recognition.
I think it's... I don't know if it's automated or automatic, but I'm going to get it's definitely number plate recognition. Don't Google it. Right, let's go.
So that vehicle's put on that. Whilst
basically DNA tracing for cars.
Yeah. Whilst that is happening, a team goes to the winery and an employee says that they were there.
Yes, they were there indeed. They were enjoying a nice little cheese board, bit of wine and cheese. It's quite funny to see it because Nick's a bit of a loss. You really see the dynamic switch very, very quickly. Nick in this situation is a complete loss as to what to do.
Yeah.
Whereas Lavinia's like, well, we just need to get out.
Yeah.
We just need to go. Just to move on. And ultimately they do. After, by the way, Nick asks for his little cheese and whiteboard to be for a takeaway. You know, if you've got no clothes and you've only got the clothes on your back, no money in your pocket, you need to take all the food you can.
Cheese.
Yeah.
So they've left there. They end up parking by a river to sleep overnight. Now, we have a little bit of... frostiness, snappiness. I wouldn't say argument. It wasn't quite...
I would.
But there is something there. It's obvious that, they're tired, they're hungry, there's tension.
It's obvious that they are exhausted, paranoid and afraid, or at least Lavinia is.
Yes.
Because she comes out with a really good quote, actually, I quite like, when they're driving. She's obviously, the dynamic is now twisted.
Yeah.
She's got them away, and she's now, oh, great, here we go. Covered in cow shit, this is the most uncomfortable day for this to happen. All right. Come on, Dan.
So yeah, they park by a river. You've got Nick having a bath in the river.
Oh, also we get the she moans about not having stuff with them.
Yeah.
She says something about not having a toothbrush, and Nick comes back with, "We're actually not that flush with fuel either."
No.
Which is exactly. Do you know what? Out of everything, that's the one thing which would fill me with fear in the Aussie outback.
Not
because
having
I'm thinking,
fuel.
No fuel. We've seen the in-betweeners too.
Yeah.
No fuel. Also hot. Also, snakes.
Yeah. She also moans that she's not got a moisturiser with her. Love, out of everything, I think your moisturiser is probably the bottom of the list of things that you need right now. Yeah. You can go a few days without moisturising.
Yeah. You've got no choice, really. Can we just mention another thing which Hunter Day you have done in their editorial, which the UK don't do, and I need to just give a little bit of applause to.
Yeah.
They show nighttime footage.
Yes.
So the rules of the game are you can only move for X amount of hours, as we know from every fugitive we've had on the show and from some hunters as well. Because it is a game show, it's a TV production, it is work. So you can only work for X amount of hours. You can only move for X amount of hours. We never see, very rarely see, I think we've seen it like in a morning sometimes when they're like shaking the tenants, that we very rarely see that nighttime footage.
We saw it once in a civilian one. I think she was meant to meet up with people at night and there was a capture. I can't remember what her name is. She was the one who did the code in the Amazon description or review or something.
But if there was a capture, that's still live play.
Yeah.
So it's not... I'm talking about footage after the point of live play, so out of live play.
Yeah.
We very rarely see that, if at all, but you can obviously see her... Lavinia really, really struggle. I actually wrote down, word for word, Lavinia's lost it. Nick knows they must show out. Plan to get cash out, but card's been blocked.
Yes. Yeah, so that's where we go next. HQ get an ANPR hit on the car. Then
which gives them a direction of travel, by the way, if you're not sure what that means.
They are able to trace the attempt to get money out at an ATM, attempt to get money out at the garage, and then attempt to get money out at another ATM. So you've got 3 attempts to get money out, which they can then track and find their location. And hunters the HQ are made aware of every single time they try that.
Can you do a quick Google for me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you Google whether ATMs actually have cameras in them or not? Because we've seen it all the time, the footage of from that point of view of typing into the thing. I think they do. I think it's a security measure because you can't see the keypad, but you can see what they're doing on screen, as in like what they tap in, or you can see their thing. Do ATMs have cameras in them?
Yeah. So most bank ATM machines have video surveillance cameras these days.
So therefore that footage can be obtained and used. Fair enough. Also, if anyone's wondering, well, they didn't get any money out, so how could they trace it? As soon as you put your PIN in, it's active.
Yeah, you've put your card in, you've put your PIN in, you've connected to your bank.
Yeah.
So they're able to track that attempt at a transaction and get a location. So they are able to then send teams to Warrigal to where Nick and Lavinia are. Because,
of course, did they go to 3 ATMs in the end?
They went to an ATM, so they
or
tried
was it
an
2,
ATM.
But twice?
An ATM at a garage. They then tried at the cash desk at a garage and then tried an ATM.
So that data going from A to B to C or A to B, coupled with the ANPR hits of the others, has given the hunters pinpoints on the map, and they can physically draw that out on a line and work out where they're going, what their direction of travel is.
Yeah.
And you've got to give them credit for that because it is a bit of a hunch, but also it's a very, very good thing for them to be able to do because then they're able to go, right, we can now get ahead of their game because they can only go to 1, 2 or 3 locations. And in this case, I think it was literally 1 in terms of permission of where they can travel in the game. They can only go to 1 location, so they get ahead.
Yes. So Nick and Lavinia dump the car. And you've got Alpha.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I've got to interject here because we're about to move on from, and it won't make sense.
Go on then.
HQ obviously get that footage of them getting the card block, and you can obviously hear what she says. And she says something about, the card's been, I don't know what's going off. The card, why isn't it working? Getting in a state. And Reese, comedy moment, it's because we've frozen your account. It's just brilliant. It's perfectly timed, and it just gives the HQ team a lovely moment of light relief. And you know what, Reese? Fair play, dude.
Well done, Reese.
Fair play. More of that in season 2, please.
So they leave the car. You've got Alpha and Charlie teams in town. I didn't get which team, but one of the teams locates the vehicle.
That's Alpha, and that's Eagle-Eyed Jace.
Well done, Eagle-Eyed Jace. He spots the vehicle, spots that it's empty. And then we see that Nick and Lavinia use their remaining cash to book a motel room using a fake name.
I'm sure that Lavinia's TripAdvisor review on that motel will be delightful. I wonder if it would be the same with ours when we went to the Not So Grand in Scarborough, which was...
Shit.
Yeah, but what was my review? What did I put on the suggestions card? It said
bulldoze it.
It said, "Have you got any suggestions for this site?" Yeah, bulldoze it, build a travel lodge.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then we're on to 3 days remaining. So 3 days left now. Nick and Lavinia need to get out of the area. They put on some rather questionable disguises. Basically just wigs. They put on wigs. Put on some wigs. And they plan to get a bus to Melbourne CBD.
That is the Central Business District, which is where the game began.
Woo! So HQ gets CCTV from Warrigal Station, which is a bus and train station, but they find out that there are no trains running and it is just buses. So if they know that they're going to get a bus, they see when the next bus out of there is.
I did write down at this point the word Graham.
Yeah.
In the hope that Ben's mate would turn up again.
Oh.
You know, but there are more than one bus driver in Australia.
Yeah.
But well done, by Graham.
Alpha and Charlie teams to the station. We have them going in opposite ways. But they both get to the station before the bus pulls off. Nick and Lavinia are on the bus.
They are trapped.
This is where panic sets in.
Yes.
Proper panic. Lavinia tells Nick to get off the bus. That's a mistake.
It is a mistake, but also I thought at the time it wasn't a mistake.
No.
Because you are sitting ducks.
Yeah.
So you might as well get out and run.
Yeah.
But the editorial made it feel like they were going to get... The editorial made it feel like, literally, teams Alpha and Charlie were going to get on the bus and put hands on and have another sit-down capture.
But no. Nick gets off the bus and is chased. And I think because Nick gets off, they're so distracted by Nick getting off...
That the bus can go.
That the bus just can go, with Lavinia still on the bus. And we see sort of a bit of a breakdown from Lavinia, the fact that she's on her own, and she even says that she doesn't want to do it on her own. She only wanted to do it with him.
Yeah.
So Lavinia gets away.
My question would be, they had two grind teams there at the same time. It's not like one was behind.
Yeah.
Why did all four go with chasing one?
We've been there before though with Michelle and Angie. They all went after one.
Yeah. You'd have thought they'd learn the lesson really, wouldn't you? But...
So obviously Lavinia's on the bus goes. Nick's off the bus, he runs, but we have a capture, and Nick tells the hunters that him and Lavinia separated that morning. So he tries to steer them away from the fact that she was on that bus.
Yes, which is a very good thing on his behalf, because, you know, he's got that last little protective instinct. He tries to buy her some time in the hope that she got away. Fair play. And it'd be interesting to see how quickly that they can follow that track as we pick up the episode next time. I want to say that, like Hunted UK, we'll probably get a capture within the first part of the show. But this is Hunted Australia, so it's going to probably be dragged out until episode 9, isn't it?
Potentially. Who knows?
We will wait and see. One last thing I did write down, though, was when they had the little video call with HQ. Ben come in with a belter. Fair play, Ben. Are you regretting that cheese board, mate? After what was, to be fair, a quite lengthy run. Yeah. It wasn't a short one. He kept going, and only because he ran out of energy.
Yeah, he ran into a fence, I think. I think he was a bit trapped.
Yeah. He just ran himself into a corner. So there you are. That was credits roll, wasn't it?
Credits roll.
So who have we got left in the game then now?
We have
with 2 episodes left to watch.
Yep. We have Jake and Rob, Staffy and Matt, and Lavinia. So we've got 2.5 teams.
2.5 teams. 3 days left on the run.
3 days left.
And 2 more episodes to watch.
Yeah, I think we're going to get days quite drawn out.
Yes. And to be honest, because I've not seen it yet, I'm not sure whether I'm up for that or not.
Okay.
But as the series has gone on, I'm going to openly admit now.
Oh.
After episode 1, I was thinking, this is going to be a really long, sluggish watch, and I'm really going to get frustrated by it. But, you know, as it's gone on, I've actually enjoyed it more and more.
Yeah, I struggled at the start.
I actually really appreciate the length of it. Maybe it just needs to speed up a little bit more at the start, and then as it goes on. Because actually, if you think about the UK version, you get like the first couple of days, and then all of a sudden you're at like the last 3, 4. That bit in the middle is actually where most of the action happens. So maybe to elongate that and spread that out a little bit, maybe that would be good.
Yeah.
But there you go. Right. Any things which you enjoyed as part of the show this week? Any notable things which you think, I'd love to see that in the next series of Celeb Hunter, before we move on to what they class in work meetings as AOB, aka any other business?
I still enjoy the chief asking everyone to gather around the operations table.
You're a big fan of the operations table, aren't you?
I like it because it's like a central point, and it's not just like gather round or let's have a chat. It's let's gather around the operations table. We've got a purpose. Let's do it. Bam.
Bosh. I also like his motivational speeches.
Yeah, I just like him.
The more and more it goes on, the more like respect I've got for him as a leader. And you know, I really think if he was a leader of me, I think I'd really be motivated by him because, you know, you enjoy the highs, you learn from the lows, you do the job.
Yeah.
In the confines of the game. I really, really enjoyed that. Really enjoying the little bits at the start as well. Looking forward to seeing how things ramp up. And we will, of course, be with you at the same time next week to talk all about episode 8, the penultimate episode of the 9-episode series of Hunted Australia. If you've got any comments about the show, you want to have your say and share your thoughts on it, please do get in touch on the old social media.
Twitter @HuntedPod, Instagram @HuntedPod, Facebook we're just HuntedPod, or email huntedpod@outlook.com. And please say something, not just your name or hi. Thank you. Bye.
Absolutely. AOB.
Yeah.
We were talking about a little bit about biscuits earlier.
Yeah.
And it reminded me that we had a message from our friends the Speakmans today. On our way to Aberscotch, discussing the fact we've not seen Garibaldi biscuits for ages. Have you seen them? They're a cracking dipper with good structural integrity, and thought we'd run it by our fellow biscuit brigade. So I want to know from you guys at home. Help out a fellow fugitive. Have you seen any Garibaldis?
Yeah.
If so, where? And also your thoughts on them, because for me,
don't they have raisins in them?
I think that's why I don't like them.
Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm not a raisins person.
And also, would you dip a raisin in a brew?
No.
Clearly, we're not fans.
No.
But, you know, the Speakmans.
But if you know where to find them, let us know and we'll pass it on.
Yeah. Or let the Speakmans know.
You'll let the Speakmans.
They'll be more than happy to talk biscuits, I can guarantee
it.
Right, that's it. That is literally all we've got time for this week. Just a quick reminder then as a recap. So we've got 2.5 teams left in the game.
2.5 teams.
With 2.5
teams, 3 days.
2.5 teams. Hang on. 3 days. 2.5 teams. 2 episodes, and 1 couple who can't wait for you to join us again next week on the Hunted Podcast to talk all things Hunted Australia. Thanks so much for listening. Please do get in touch on social media. We're going to ram it down your throat. This is where you can get in touch.
Twitter @HuntedPod, Instagram @HuntedPod, Facebook just HuntedPod, or email huntedpod@outlook.com.
And don't forget to
like, rate, subscribe,
and tell all your friends all about the Hunted Podcast. For now, though, your time on the pod is over. You have been hunted, and we will see you next time, mate.
Bye.
Goodbye.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. Don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they drag the chains, you can say no, free me.